This is no longer just a city build. Today, Suncrest City becomes a football town in what is a big milestone for Suncrest County as a whole. Because we're not just dropping in another building, we're planting the flag for an entire franchise. Welcome to the home of the Suncrest City Surge. In this episode, we bring in an NFL franchise and built a completely custom stadium for them. From the field design and massive video boards to custom branding, signage, and team identity, even the full stadium atmosphere, this build is all about turning an empty coastline into a true game day destination. But we didn't just stop at the stadium. We're building out a full ecosystem around it, a dedicated practice facility, realistic parking infrastructure, new access roads, even a nearby HOA-style residential neighborhood, so this area feels a bit more lived in and not just plopped down for screenshots. This project really helped shape the identity of Suncrest City and the surrounding areas, because we didn't just build a stadium, we built an identity. So grab a seat, crank up the hype, and let's build something that I feel is truly epic. Now, to kick things off, the very first thing that we need to do, and one of the most important steps obviously, is land reclamation. And choosing the right spot is definitely paramount when picking the right stadium. I wanted to have something where, people in the stadium would have obviously views of the field, but you look to the left, you got the water, you look to the right, you got the downtown, and you get some really nice views out of there. So once that's all set, it's really easy to just start up and some little guide roads so you can get your field exactly where you want it, lined up perfectly. And even once you got the field where it is, you're probably still going to rotate it a little bit and try to figure it out and finagle things, but this is the best way to do it in my opinion, some guide roads. And that's also going to help you when you start laying down the actual foundation pieces of the stadium, which is the stands. Now in City Skylines 2, those things can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, not even going to lie. They don't really snap, and without a dedicated copy and paste in the game, it can make for a miserable experience, but also very fun. Now diving into some inspiration for today's build, I went straight into the inspiration for basically the entire area, and I went to San Francisco and picked out Levi's Stadium. I wanted to do an open air stadium. I didn't want to put a roof on this one. I wanted people to, experience the nice California air and everything that comes with it. So I felt like Levi's Stadium was just perfect for what I was going for. And to be honest with you, I always kind of like the stadium. I think it's one of the nicer open air ones in the NFL, and the surrounding areas are just going to fit in perfectly for what I'm trying to do with the stadium as well. Now, actually building the thing, this took a little bit of time. I did about 3 to 4 different renditions before I figured out something that I was happy with. And the main reason for that is that, like I was saying, these stands, they're just a little bit difficult to work with at times. And especially when you get to the corners and trying to round everything out, it just starts looking so jank. I really wanted to try and avoid that as much as humanly possible. But the sad reality is you really just can't when you're using these things. I mean, if you go with too many corner pieces, you just get this big round bowl, and it kind of resembles more like a Roman Coliseum than an actual NFL stadium. And it also just takes everything way too far away from the field. And with NFL stadiums, they try and put everybody as close to the action as possible. So I'm really trying to get that same feeling and capture that same look and vibe. And as time goes on, you'll do some experimenting with corners, not using corner pieces, but no matter how hard you try, the jank is just unavoidable. And that's where a lot of challenge of building an open air stadium really comes from. Normally you can just hide this stuff with a roof and, some buildings on the outside, and everything just looks symmetrical and honestly really pretty, but trying to do it when it's open air, you're going to see everything. So we're going to do our best to try and make everything as clean as possible and see what we can come up with. Now, I will say that I do absolutely love building stadiums in this game. As frustrating as it can be, especially without a dedicated copy and paste tool, I have so much fun with it. I'm actually a big stadium buff in real life. I've been to 32 stadiums in my life. I try and make it a point to go to different ones every single year. I'm honestly a big sports nut in real life. It's one of my biggest passions. So I've been to a bunch of different NFL stadiums, basketball arenas, baseball stadiums. I'm going to get flamed for this one, but soccer stadiums, please don't hurt me. And I just love them. It's the atmosphere. It's something that's honestly, in my opinion, truly special. And you really can't explain it unless you're there, especially if your team is winning. So on that note, it's safe to say that building stadiums is definitely a passion project of mine. I really thought about, before doing this, maybe commissioning somebody to make a custom asset or bring in some of the stadiums I like in real life. And I thought about reaching out to someone like Mac Welshman, but at the end of the day, I feel like doing this is just so much more fun. Granted, if those do come into the game, I'm definitely going to use them. And I definitely still might go ahead and commission some things down the line. In fact, that's honestly what I'm trying to make my goal for the YouTube monetization aspect of it for. I want to kind of use whatever funds comes from that and try and put them back into the game or community as much as humanly possible. And with custom assets out now and, people taking commissions to make good things or, things that people want, that's kind of a goal of mine. I want to try and get some of those assets made and put into the game. And I feel like that's a great way to try and incorporate the community and just a way to try and give back, what you guys have already given me so far. So I'm really excited about that. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Tell me what your favorite sports team is, stadiums, or even just some other type of buildings you'd like to see brought into the game. I absolutely love talking about this stuff and just hearing from other people, because the ideas that you just get and the inspiration that bounces around in my mind when people talk about things like that, I love it, man. I love this community. I love this game. And I really look forward to hearing from you guys with some great inspiration and feedback and ideas going forward. Now, getting back into where the inspiration from Levi Stadium really came from, I'm trying to recreate that giant press box that they have, that all those luxury suites that they have in that stadium. They're all on one side and one big wall, and trying to find things to make those luxury boxes in the game themselves are honestly, in my opinion, really difficult to pick. So I went with the Japan style static floppable here, and I'm just going to try and recreate this a little bit, and we'll detail it up as we go. But we can't just leave it floating like that, so we have to go ahead and do some concrete structures. And these multi-purpose slabs, I thought were just perfect. I use these in conjunction with the multi-purpose blocks from Crypto Gamer, and these things just they honestly saved my life building this. Just trying to put together a ton of concrete pillars to make what you need without the copy and paste tool, that's just going to take way too long. But these things are just phenomenal for this. They made building the stadium so much easier. If you haven't used these yet, I definitely recommend trying them out. They are not just a lifesaver, they're a mental health saver. I promise you that. Now, as I kind of Lego block all of this together, it's got me thinking about other projects I want to tackle. And I'll be the first one to say, you know, this is the first of many stadiums that I plan on putting into this county, not just a city. I have this envisioned in my head of a twin city county right now, similar to how San Francisco and Oakland would be. So with that, I do want to incorporate multiple baseball teams, 2 different NFL franchises, university stadiums, or do some MLS, basketball arenas, multifunctional, everything like that. I want to incorporate all of it. Like I said, I'm a big sports nut, so we're going to go ahead and do that at some point. And if we eventually get some stadium assets brought into the game, I will most certainly be using those. But don't get it twisted, I'm definitely going to continue doing stadiums like this as well, because it's just so much fun to me. I have a blast doing it. Now, as I'm laying these out, I will give you one big recommendation. Maybe try and piece these all together before you put them in the slot. While I do love these slabs and these blocks, once you start getting them basically trying to put in like this, it can actually become a little bit more of a hassle. You're picking up the wrong one constantly. So I would definitely recommend placing these down into the structure that you want, and then try and nestle them in exactly where you need them to go. So here we are making the staircases for the entry gates. And you've seen me use this technique before if you watched the Transit Hub video. Granted, that was one of the first time I did it, so I got a little bit better at it now, and it wasn't as frustrating doing these ones. These do come already completely pathed up, so all you gotta do is connect them up to invisible pathways for citizens to go through. I got these in Sully's Discord. They're made by Source Design. I don't think they're on PDX mods yet. I know he said at some point he was gonna put things on there, but I'm not 100% sure if that's going to happen or when that's going to happen. So if you are looking to get these and start incorporating them, I do recommend getting into Sully's Discord and using them out of there. So with the foundation of the stadium basically complete, it's time to start getting in the light bar system. And a little fun fact about where the inspiration came from, Levi Stadium, they have one of the more advanced LED light bar systems in the entire NFL. On top of that, they have the largest 4K video boards of any NFL team, and this was all a small part of a $200 million renovation that they did prior to the 2025 NFL season and to get ready to host World Cup games in 2026. Now to try and recreate some of that, I'm utilizing some of the gantry props that Jay made to try and make that light bar system or something similar to it. I didn't just want to use industrial lighting and plop it around everywhere and face it towards the field. It's not going to give off the same effect, and utilizing these in conjunction with some of the bridges and port spotlights that came out recently, it gives you a wonderful effect at night that really helps you capture some of that nighttime stadium atmosphere. Now we're not just going to be utilizing these gantry beams for light bars. These things make fantastic video boards. If you use these in conjunction with the Right Everywhere or my video board tutorial in my decal pack, you can make some truly spectacular setups and seriously up the realism on your stadium builds. Now, once you have the board's main structure assembled and put into place, we can go ahead and delete the original support pillars because they're just going to kind of mesh in and be at an angle that you don't really want. So instead of trying to finagle with them and move it and try and get them in a spot that you feel more comfortable with, it's just a little bit easier to just kind of delete those and swap them out with something that's going to fit a little bit better and give you everything you want. Now, once those are in, we'll just go ahead and repeat the process on the other side and we'll have two awesome video boards. Now, this is typically a part of the build where I start doing something that I just enter a rabbit hole and can't get out of. I start doing some creativity in Photoshop and utilize some other tools, and I get a little carried away and Right Everywhere, and this was no exception. So to make the video board, instead of just plasting down a decal on top of a bunch of billboards put together, I went ahead and made an actual display base for it in Right Everywhere and used that to recreate those two awesome 4K video boards that Levi's Stadium has. And once you have everything else in place, it's really just figuring out the sizing and positioning of where you want it to be, which in my opinion is probably the most difficult part when you're using Right Everywhere, especially for the first time. But once you get it down and once you kind of get a feel for it, it basically becomes muscle memory for you. And you can also save these and just kind of re-import them and just play off of that as well, which makes everything so much easier. Now for the actual graphic that I'm putting on these video boards, I went ahead and made the logo in Photoshop, made the uniforms in another game, took screenshots of those, imported those into Photoshop to put them together, and then took screenshots of the city skyline of Suncrest City, and then I imported all of that into an AI tool and had it come up with the renderings. And I gotta say, I was blown away by it. Honestly, it's everything I was hoping for. I love it. It's got the actual background of Suncrest City back there. It helped give me so much more inspiration for further branding, and honestly had me diving down a rabbit hole, as I said earlier, that was quite difficult to get out of. And the field design as well was also fully custom. Went ahead and designed that in Photoshop as well. It's quite easy to actually find an American football field layout online. So I got this one off of Canva, and it came with a transparent background. Once that's imported into Photoshop, you just kind of start adding in your logos, you can do some touch-ups, and then when you make the actual decal for the game, it just comes in looking wonderful. Now, aside from that, I didn't just want to slap down a bunch of grass here and call it a day. I really wanted to build an identity for this team. And in my mind, one of the big things identity is just popping with color and his team colors everywhere it goes. And that includes the field as well. So we'll try and incorporate that best we can. And we'll also make sure we incorporate the medical and media lines throughout the outline of the field and make sure the field goal bars are exactly where they need to be and lined up.
Just like we're ready. Like you like that. You never ask me if I'm happy or sad. Just like we're ready. Like you like that. You never ask me if I'm happy or sad.
Now, one of the big things about Levi's Stadium is their sustainability initiative. And because of that, they have a ton of solar panels on top of the roof of the luxury suites. And I'm trying to incorporate that as well. Trying to get the right structures for that was a little bit of a pain. I went ahead and tried a bunch of them and they just kind of kept auto-deleting on me. So I utilized the bike parking and I think it worked out really well. And then hiding the back end of the stands was also really important. I didn't want to just put in a bunch of different static buildings back there. I wanted to kind of keep the concrete feel to it. And unfortunately, I can't really recreate the walkways that Levi's has. It was just a little bit too difficult. I tried that one for several hours and it didn't come out how I wanted it. I tried using a bunch of different type of walkways and props and I just wasn't happy with it. So I decided to go with another awesome asset that Source Design made and just in case the entire thing in concrete. And honestly, I think it came out looking a hell of a lot better this way. So now I ventured down yet another rabbit hole, but this one is my favorite one. It's detailing. I went ahead and did a bunch of detailing around the stadium. So I'll let this part of the time lapse roll a bit and we'll catch back up when we start talking about the gates. Now, part of the process of building an open air design stadium means you can't just hide the entranceway to it in a plop down building. I really wanted to try and build out the actual stadium gates similar that you would see at Levi's to try and keep that authentic and realistic feel to it. It's really simple to accomplish that as long as you got the right assets, so I'm going to go ahead and use some more gantry props that Jay made. They really gave me exactly what I was looking for here, and then we'll incorporate right everywhere into this as well and just kind of make the signage for the gate so people know which section to go to. The practice facility is actually a no-brainer to me. We already have a great asset in the game to make that happen, and every team needs one. I like it when the teams have them close to the stadium. Some teams, they travel far away, but for authenticity, I just really wanted to try and incorporate this directly next to it. Granted, the one in real life, they share with a soccer club as well, so it's going to be on a little bit of a smaller scale. I didn't want to incorporate a soccer club into this stadium just yet. I might do a custom one for them, or depending on space, maybe I'll add one in at some point and they'll share it out. So you might have noticed when I was doing the gates that there was the beginnings of a parking lot. Well, I had initially made one and then I decided I hated it. It was just far too big. It looked, I don't know, it just didn't look right to me. So I got rid of that, and here we go doing a proper one this time. Now, I did again use the inspiration for this one, but I didn't want to make it overly big and a little unbelievable for the game itself. So I dubbed it down a little bit and I went from there. Now, this is also serving as the primary entrance to the stadium itself. So there's going to be plenty of ticketing booths, checkpoints, and the whole 9 yards with that. We'll go ahead and throw in all the necessary parking lot details as well, along with a little side lot that houses some news crew cameras, storage containers, little delivery trucks, maybe a couple ambulances or fire trucks or whatnot. Just some things you would typically see off the side of a stadium parking lot. Even for those news crew vents, sometimes they're just not in the nicest part of a parking lot, so I'm going to try and incorporate that just to add a little bit more realism to the area. And for usability and functionality with the actual main game, as of right now, I'm not really going to be able to add a whole lot to it to get people to park there, so I'm going to use some props at some point just for some cinematic shots. I'll go ahead and remove those eventually, and when the time comes to actually do the waterfront, I'm expecting that to just kind of wrap around from the downtown to over here, so I'm sure this parking lot will get plenty of free use as well. Now, Levi Stadium itself sits on the St. Thomas Aquino Creek, which isn't exactly the nicest small body of water, but it adds a really nice nature element to the area. So I'm gonna try and incorporate something similar to that here. And I gotta say, I'm really glad that I did, because all the greenery and that little bit of nature, it really helps break up from all the concrete and structure and the bright lights that this stadium is gonna produce. And now I am actually leaving this at a certain depth because I am thinking ahead just a little bit here. I took this river all the way up to where the new harbor is going to be at some point, and I kind of want to incorporate a little ferry line at some point in time. I'll probably have to clean up the riverbed itself when that time comes, but I really do like the idea of having a ferry that's going to go from one part of town to the next, and it's going to cut right through the stadium district. But then again, like I said, that's thinking way down the line, so I'm just kind of planning ahead a little bit here. Now, before we dive into a detailing time lapse, I want to explain why I'm putting in this little substation. Well, I say little, but it's actually quite large. At the real life location of Levi Stadium, it does sit directly parallel to a substation and a small little water treatment plant. It's actually under a lot of scrutiny right now, as studies are starting to show that it could be directly causing to some player injuries. I don't really understand it, but for authenticity and realism purposes, I wanted to include that in the area. Now, the fact that I am playing on creative mode, I don't necessarily need the power right here, but I can only imagine the amount of power that a stadium like this is going to need. So having a substation right there actually does make a bunch of sense for me. So I'm just going to rock with it for now and see how it goes. But now with all that said, I'm going to shift into another detailing time lapse here. This one's going to be slightly longer than the first one. So I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I'll catch back up with you shortly. So as I was getting ready to round out this build and call it a day, I started realizing that there was just far too much empty space around the stadium still. I wanted, I wanted to take up a big parcel of the land, but I also didn't want it to just look like a structure in the middle of absolutely nowhere. When you look at these pictures on real life, there's apartment complexes, homing developments, everything around it, some industry in some, office buildings, commercial, the whole 9 yards. So I decided to just do a little first step with that and create a HOA style neighborhood. Now, using my imagination, I might think that this is somewhere that the players live or coaches and staff live, even rent them out to some family when away teams come in, something near the stadium, something they can get to quick. And I kind of wanted to make it a little bit nice. So I went ahead and made a simple layout on it, went into my new favorite mod called Platter, and threw a bunch of stuff down. On top of that, put a little townhomes in the corner and call it a day. It was really simple to do, and honestly, I think it brings a really nice element to the area right here. And in my opinion, it just completes the build for me. I love how everything just looks more complete and cohesive with this here. I'm really glad that I went ahead and took this little extra step at the end and just filled in this spot of land. But building this area didn't come without its own sacrifices. I eliminated the train station that was in this area. I wasn't using it yet, to be fair, so I'm going to reincorporate that somewhere else a little down the line. I'm not really sure which part of this town I want to drop it into. I'll figure that one out as we go. If you have any suggestions on where that should be, go ahead and please let me know. I would really, really appreciate some feedback on that one. Rail system is really not my strong point when it comes to actually running the infrastructure for it. So again, I'd really appreciate that. And as we put the finishing touches on this development, I'm going to go ahead and call this episode wrapped. I'd like to thank you guys very, very much for hanging out with me today. I honestly had so much fun building this stadium out. This has to be one of my favorite builds of the series so far, and I'm really, really glad that I was able to share that with you all. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you guys would like to get more involved in the channel, I officially have a Discord now. And I gotta say, I was actually kind of blown away because that came with so many people requesting one through DMs on Discord already and even in the comments. But I have one now, so if you guys want to hop on in and just, kind of say hello, get to know each other a bit more, bounce some ideas off me and, feedback on the build, maybe some lore, I would absolutely love to hear from all of you guys in there. I'll be including my mod list, sneak peeks, and once support actually goes live, we'll include some game saves and other exclusive perks, along with some giveaways and a lot of other fun things. But if you like what you saw today, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know. And if you don't want to miss what comes up next, consider subscribing. We got a lot more projects coming up and I don't want you guys to miss it. As always, we got some really nice cinematics coming up. But again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.